Before we start up, check out the Dork Album Volume 1. You can pre-order it now right off of Indiegogo. Support the channel. Let's do the thing. Learn a little something. Take a lesson. Learn it all.
You talked earlier about, like Disney Plus versus the movies, TV shows versus, MCU, things like that. How are your tie-ins looking? Is there like a priority to do movies over TV shows and things like that? Do you have plans to integrate with those things?
I think for us, especially when we look at Disney Plus, like we're already kind of in early talks with Disney to figure out like, hey, is that something we can do to tie in with those shows? Because you look at like the list of shows that they're releasing, like 2020, it's just Winter Soldier and Falcon. But like as soon as you go to 2021, there's like 4 or 5 different shows that are releasing, and so each one of those is an opportunity for us to like go big on events. So for us, like obviously I think MCU films will always take priority as like the big events for us. But especially when you look at Disney Plus and the level of quality and production value they're going to put into those, we see that and we're like, the best way that I think Marvel kind of described it to us, right, is like it's just a 4 or 5 hour long MCU film.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. We want to be part of that then. And so for us, like MCU films will probably take priority, but then when it comes to the shows, we also want to look at how can we time with each one of those just as much, right? Because you have the same film talent from them, from all the movies and the shows. So like, why not? It's going to be a great way to draw new players in via Disney Plus, as well as potentially like even like helping reactivate our players or just getting existing players stoked about new events. So any opportunity we can get to time with Marvel, like it's worked for almost 5 years so far, so we'll continue doing that. Yeah.
Nice. So now Rarity, moving on that, we had 4 stars. 4 stars were like amazing, and then 5 stars came. 5-star was like the new thing, and then 6-star was received a little bit harshly.
Yep.
But it seems like it's kind of like smoothing into the meta now. Are there plans, or are you looking at doing 7 stars at any point? Is that going to be where the meta is moving, or are you going to kind of cap it and start doing other things like, I don't know, gear or add-ons type of thing to...
It's pretty much like all those things, right? Like, so next rarity is something we've been talking about. Players probably won't see or even be able to acquire a new rarity for quite a long time. Because even when you look at 6 stars right now, right, like the majority of players are capped out at rank 2, maybe some of rank 3, so they're, even right now, like it's capped out, and there also isn't a content driver to really push players to why would you need a 7-star right now, right? If we put that out there, it's like, okay, well, that'd be a huge jump in power, and there's also not something out there that they really need, like, why would you need a 7-star right now versus just a rank 2 or rank 3 6-star? So 7 stars are something we've been talking about. It's going to be a long time before players, like, potentially see them. At some point, we might just add in the game just for, like, the difficulty aspect of putting them in quests, so we can elevate the challenge for, like, really high-tier users. But in terms of acquisition for 7 stars, it'll be quite a ways out. Because we still have, like, 3 ranks of like 6 stars for players to get through, and at this point only like the top highest end players have like a rank 2 rank 3 like roster, so there's a lot of runway for us to run with 6 stars for quite a long time. When it comes to like other progression systems, like like way back in the day we talked about stuff like gear and stuff like that, those are other things we continue to talk about, and we're thinking about, we're just evaluating for Marvel, right? Because as we talk about like longevity of the game, we look at those aspects, right, of like for players, like, if you're an earlier or mid-tier player, champion rarity and catalyst and stuff like that are enough of a driver for you to continue to push your team. But as we look at like high-tier players playing in like high-tier AW, high-tier AQ, we're going to rework dungeons eventually, so we can get stuff from there. We look at like what are other progression lines that might make sense for Marvel, the contest of champions, that would help elongate like our game, in the sense of like what are additional things we could add to the game that players would want to chase for, essentially, right? Because like you said, like it's been 5 years of players just going to the next rarity, going to the next rank, and at a certain point, does that even feel stale for users, where they want something different? They want a different way to be able to power their champions or to kind of expand their roster, right? So that is all stuff we're talking about right now, trying to figure out, because we want the game to keep going for another 5-10 years. 7 stars are a likelihood that'll come down the pipe and on for a while, and then when it comes to stuff like gear or even just another progression system in general, it's like something that's under evaluation. We're trying to figure out how it makes sense. But I think the one thing we've kind of learned, especially, is like if we go down that route, is figuring out is actually what makes sense. So we're spending a lot more time in terms of like high level design and just to really gut check, like, and make sure that even internally we're all aligned on what is the purpose of this, why are players chasing it, who within like the demographics of our player base is this actually for. So that's something that we're going through a lot of rounds on to figure out.
Now the rank 3s on 6-star seem just like impossible right now. Are there plans like within the next 6 to 8 months that we're going to start seeing more access to that? People are going to be able to rank 5 their 5 stars a lot more, and rank 5s will just kind of be like the new 4 stars in terms of how easy you can rank them up.
Yeah, and so like the way to look at it too is like when we build out like I said, we kind of try to match our economy of like when resources are being given out and what volume with like the content as well. So when it comes to rank 3s, we have content coming out fall and early next year where, hey, the rewards for that stuff will be that bridging of the gap, right? We said that early next year we're going to be finishing off Act 6, where that's going to be like, there's going to be some sweet rewards for completing and mastering Act 6. We also talked about in the big roadmap post, like, hey, we're working on the next Labyrinth of Legends.
Wait, what was that about Act 6? Is there going to be sweet rewards?
It'll be pretty good. Like, it's good, like of the completion and mastery of Act 6, like it should feel pretty good at closing out that story. We'll get into specifics, so I'm not going to speak for the quest team. Some of the quest team's already going to kill me for talking about that. But like we have other crazy high tier content coming out. Like we've been working on the next Labyrinth of Legends, so that will be a step up, and we'll have rewards to match the level of investment the players will want to put into that. And then even as we look into 2020, right? Like the one thing we talked about is we want to keep a more predictable cadence of high tier content for our top end players, right? Because there's those players that exist in our game, like you've probably met like the Brian Grants of the world, where it's like they've done all the PvE content, like outside of AW and AQ, like that's all that's keeping them going right now. And so for us, we really want to figure out like how do we get on a more predictable cadence of content for players that are at the high tier, so that there's always something for them to be coming back to. Maybe not every month, because that might be a bit overwhelming for the EQs, but what's that right cadence of us releasing more act content, more back issues, something new potentially that's going to help drive it. Because as we kind of add those like high tier content, that'll be kind of like those release gates for, hey, more high tier rewards essentially.
Learn a little something. Take a lesson. Learn it all.